And in the latest developments, the US is sending another escorted aircraft carrier to the Persian Gulf, saying it is a routine mission. Well, to talk more on this, I'm now joined by Lindsay German from the Stop the War Coalition in London. So, US and UK warships amassing in and around the Persian Gulf at the moment. Thousands of US troops in Israel, although some of these are officially described as routine moves. But clearly there is a lot of pressure on Iran at the moment. Is it justified?
No, I don't think it's justified at all. If you look at the recent report from the Atomic Energy Authority, it said quite categorically that there is not evidence of Iran developing a nuclear weapon. It seems to me that the authorities in America and Britain and elsewhere are ignoring this report, and they are definitely stepping up the pressure. The assassination yesterday of the latest the nuclear scientist who worked at Natanz, will be seen quite rightly as a provocation. It will be seen as the work of the Israelis, but backed by the Americans. And the troop movements, the ships in the Gulf, all of this points to more and more pressure on Iran. And even when people say nobody would be mad enough to start this war, I'm afraid people have said this before, and there have been these wars, and sometimes they can start quite accidentally as a result of this kind of pressure, and really the Americans are playing, and the Israelis are playing a very, very dangerous game here.
Could that pressure, though, not be eased simply by Iran just pausing its enrichment program for the moment?
Well, it shouldn't really be the case that America, or indeed any other country, should be able to dictate to Iran that either they stop developing nuclear power or they are threatened with war. This isn't really the job of any country in a civilized society. It should be that people respect the rights of other countries, and after all, Iran has been subject to a whole range of things. Iran is now subject to embargoes on oil, embargoes on petrochemical products, as well as the military threats. So there's a very serious attempt to say to Iran, you can't do any of these things, at a time when it is absolutely well known that the only country in the Middle East with nuclear weapons is Israel, and yet Israel feels that it has the justification for waging airstrikes and possible other forms of attack on a country which it accuses of wanting to develop the same weapons that it already has.
A lot of strong rhetoric coming from both sides seemingly being provocative, and yet France is now calling for a combined approach of dialogue and also pressure on Iran. But surely that extra pressure could be seen as provocative even more against Tehran. But shouldn't now we be seeing some dialogue, or is it too late?
Well, I hope that it isn't too late. I hope that the Western powers will back off from this kind of behaviour. But you have to think, the assassination yesterday, which Hillary Clinton said had nothing to do with the US, but she also said that Iran has to stop its provocative behaviour. I'd like to ask you to consider what would be the reaction if an equivalent person had been blown up with a bomb in London or Paris or in New York or anywhere else, supposedly by Iranians or some other supposedly hostile power.
Just very briefly, Lindsay, is this going to lead to conflict, though, do you think, just briefly, or is it just mere rhetoric and harsh words? Just briefly.
I think it's much more than rhetoric. The troops are going to Israel for manoeuvres. The ships are in the Gulf. I think there is a very, very real danger of war, and we have to prepare now to oppose any threat of war on Iran.
Lindsay German from the Stop the War Coalition in London there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, we always like to